This then connects with the last thing I want to say before we open it up, with religion. And for me, radical theology and pyrotheology is that pyrotheology, well, for me, first of all, religion for me has always been based around how to navigate lack, right? Especially Christianity. I think, it's very, very key in the term sin. Right? If you think of sin as lack, an original sin as original lack, this is very much against the kind of, again, the more evolutionary psychology way of thinking about religion, that religion is designed to help us navigate, complex relationships, and to help us in a utilitarian way, with kind of like working together and tribal unities or whatever it is, right? I would say that actually religion has always been oriented around death drive. How do you manage death drive? How do we understand death drive? How do we kind of find freedom from the negative dimension of death drive? Religion is not primarily a utility. Liberal and progressives also think in terms of this. You often hear of churches as having utility, to kind of create community where people aren't lonely, they connect with other people. It has all of this social utility. But I would want to argue that no, at its purest, it's actually about how do we deal with this dimension of death drive that Freud really helped systematically describe. And the way I would say it happens is that, and I can't say too much, I don't want to talk too long, but, and I've talked about this elsewhere, but forgiveness of sin is to forgive a debt, to forgive a lack, to forgive a nothingness, is not to pay a debt, it's not to fill the lack, right? So if you pay a debt, you fill the lack. If you forgive a debt, you say the $100 that you owe me is nothing. That nothing is nothing. You render the nothing nothing. You're not filling the lack, because filling the lack is impossible. Death drive can't be got rid of. This is a dimension of of subjectivity. So the idea of paying a debt is, and this is where I threw all the stuff like the New Age, confessional religion, some kind of like maybe Enneagram stuff, not completely if you're into that, but I put a lot of things in the bucket of attempting to pay the debt, to get rid of the lack, to kind of ignore this death drive dimension. What I think the interesting thing about Christianity is, that I try to explore in pyrotheology, is it's a theory and primarily a practice designed to not get rid of the lack, but somehow get you to enjoy the enjoyment of the lack. You're already getting enjoyment from the lack, but you're not enjoying the enjoyment. Bruce Fink talks about this, of how we cannot enjoy our enjoyment. We struggle. We feel this lack, it gets us into more and more insane pursuits. We go crazier and crazier until we kill ourselves or hurt other people. There is a way of embracing the lack, of making peace with it, never bringing it to the level of consciousness, but feeling its power within us and working with it and rolling with it and integrating its dimension in a way that will where we find forgiveness of debt. And forgiveness of debt basically is a life that is freed from this frenetic pursuit of the negative dimension of death drive. Now, this connects with what Paul Tillich talks about with ultimate concern, because as I said before, and just emphasizes, death drive is both responsible for the greatest things that we can do as human beings, and it's responsible for the worst things we can do as human beings, and the most destructive part of us. If we ignore it and we don't integrate it, it will be destructive to us. But if we are able to find forgiveness of lack, we're able to embrace that lack, we will find it's productive and it's useful. It's good for us as individuals, us for our communities, for wider society, and for the world. And then I'll finish with this. Something that Altizer does, Thomas Altizer, the theologian, is often lack was seen as evil, right? So with Augustine, you have the notion that evil is like the hole in your sock, right? The hole isn't there, but it's the lack of material that lets the water in. Or a hole in your shoe would be a better example, right? Hole in your shoe, the hole doesn't exist, but it lets water in, right? So that's what evil is. It's a type of nothingness. It's a privation. But for Altizer, nothingness is not evil. It is the inability to integrate nothingness that is evil. It is not the nothingness that is bad. It is our fleeing from the nothingness of trying to avoid a confrontation with the death drive. That is bad. And so for Altizer's theology, this is partly saying that God has both fullness, substance, and lack integrated. And we as human beings have those dimensions. And we need to be able to have a relationship with those parts of ourselves.